Hey everyone, welcome back. It's another video. Huge news. Believe it or not, the BBC has actually reported on this. The very left-leaning news outlet has actually done some good for once. Who would have thought that would actually have happened? But alas, it has. So they've put out this article saying that puberty blocker curb has not led to suicide rise, which this whole argument from the transgender community is that if young kids, if they don't get their puberty blockers or their cross-sex hormones, then they're going to commit suicide as a result of that, which there's no evidence to support that is actually the case. And now we have more studies and more evidence to support that very fact. No young kid should ever be prescribed puberty blockers. You cannot reverse that. You can't just go, you know what, I'm going to stop my puberty and then say 4 or 5 years later on, just resume from where you had originally blocked it. It doesn't work like that, man. And doctors that say that, they really seriously need to look at their medical degree and look at biology properly, because the human body does not work. You can't stop your body clock from working. You can't do that. You can't play God. People are trying to do that. They think that a medication is going to allow them to stop it and then just, reverse time and go back to where you left off. It doesn't work. And anyone that says otherwise is a lunatic and deserves to be put in an asylum. So Chloe Cole, who's a detransitioner and has been on this show before, so if you want to go and watch my conversation with her, you definitely can. It's unreal. But she goes, "This is huge. The lies that plagued my childhood are starting to unravel." Indeed, because Chloe was one of the young people that sadly believed in this tragic lie. The USA should follow suit, along with Australia. Yes, because Australia is getting worse and worse by the day. In fact, they're so backwards, it's not even funny now. Like, you have people in certain hospitals here in Australia that are allowing minors to go on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and the like. It's barbaric behavior. But Australia goes, no, we're not going to listen to what any of the studies coming out of Europe are saying. We're different. We're across the pond. So therefore, whatever they do over in Europe is completely different to the Australian young kids. I mean, come on, man. Are you serious? What's it got to do with the fact that one kid is Australian, one kid is European? We're human beings, for goodness sake. A kid is a kid. A kid has, got to go through puberty, not be blocked with this drug that they should never be taking, I'll have you know. So both countries are still jumping into the fire that is gender ideology. We all know the Biden admin now probably going to be, I think it's the Harris Biden admin. I don't know what's happening over there, but it just seems rather ridiculous if you ask me. We'll do nothing. So Trump should fix this one day. Now, the thing is, in regards to this whole Trump narrative, a lot of the people in the trans community think that Trump's going to put them in prison camps and Trump's going to do X, Y, and Z to them. Then they're no longer going to exist, which is not true at all. It is a huge and utter lie. But anyway, we're just trying to protect kids, man. Like, leave the kids alone. So this is from Gays Against Groomers. Breaking, a new report out today by the BBC confirms that there has been no rise in suicide since the rollback of prescribing puberty blockers, chemical castration drugs for gender-confused youth. This news should further motivate the US to follow suit and ban these terrible drugs. We don't need them. So here we go. There is no evidence of a large rise in suicides in young patients attending a gender identity clinic in London, an independent review has found. An independent review. Okay, so not something that is created by the government, an independent review. Fact checkers have come in and gone, we need to do this study and we need to figure this out for ourselves. Professor Lewis Appleby was asked by Health Secretary Wes Streeting to examine the data following claims made by campaigners of a rise in suicide rates since puberty-blocking drugs were restricted at the Tavistock Clinic and Portman NHS Trust in 2020. Professor Appleby's review concludes the data does not support the claim. And he added the way the issue has been discussed on social media was insensitive, distressing, and dangerous. Joe Mogman, founder of the Good Law Project, which has led the claim, said he had profound difficulties with the review. unsafe language. So the Department of Health and Social Care, DHSC, said it was vital that public discussion around the issue was handled responsibly. Professor Appleby, who is a professor of psychiatry and experienced suicide researcher from the University of Manchester, said online discussions about the issue had gone against guidance on safe reporting of suicide. So they're going to go, oh, because this young person didn't get the drugs that they apparently wanted, then this person has committed suicide. So that is the reason. But it's really not. It's got nothing to do with that. If someone is going to even go that far and try and end their own life, there's significant things that have gone on in that person's brain, more than just, I didn't get this medication that I wanted. It goes far deeper than that. One risk is that young people and their families will be terrified by prescriptions of suicide as inevitable without puberty blockers. Some of the responses on social media show this, he said. There was also the risk that distressed adolescents hearing that message could be led to copy the behavior warned about. He also said the claims placed in the public domain about an explosion in suicide does not meet basic standards of statistical evidence. So they're fudging the numbers, essentially. It doesn't actually match the real data that they've got in response to all these people going, the young people are going to commit suicide if they don't get their drugs. The data is increasing because of it. No, it's not. Stop telling people that it actually is when it's not. And now we've got the proper evidence to support it, that it's not rising at all. The Good Law Project is challenging the decision by the previous health secretary to end the prescription of puberty-blocking drugs by private clinics to children and young people with gender dysphoria. That was recommended in the CAS review published in April, which found remarkably weak evidence on the use of the treatment. So if you saw the recent Dr. Mike episode, he had on this psychiatrist who loves seemingly to prescribe puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and the likes to youth that may present with gender dysphoria or something along those lines. And this psychiatrist is totally for it because apparently it helps the young person, but we know that it's not going to help them long term. It does anything but. So that's a problematic conversation, which I would more than love to challenge. And they even spoke about the CAS review and the way the psychiatrist was talking completely against it. It just, doesn't make any sense. In response to the claims, the new health secretary launched an independent review led by Professor Appleby, which analysed data from NHS England on suicides of patients at the Tavistock Clinic based on an adult audit at the trust. Covering the period between 2018-19 and 23-24, he found there were 12 suicides, 5 in the 3 years leading up to 20-21 and 7 in the 3 years afterwards. This is essentially no difference. Professor Appleby says in his report, taking account of expected fluctuations in small numbers and will not reach statistical significance. He adds in the under 18s specifically, there were 3 suicides before and 3 after 2020 and 2021. The patients who died were in different points in the care system, including post-discharge, suggesting no consistent link to any one aspect of care, Professor Appleby noted, which is an important point to make. Okay. However, he said it was likely there had been a rise over a longer period as more young people at risk came forward with gender identity problems. Insufficient evidence. The Good Law Project based its claims on information provided by whistleblowers at the now closed Tavistock Clinic. Project Executive Director Mr. Mogman said in a lengthy response to the review on X, formerly Twitter, that this had been combined with public evidence of Tavistock's own minutes. He said freedom of information requests for official figures had been rebuffed and that Tavistock and NHS England had declined to comment on his findings when approached, because we all know that this stuff doesn't actually work. It's barbarism, it's destructive, and now it's all coming to light. So how about that? He said freedom of information requests for official figures had been rebuffed and that Tavistock and... Okay. Mr. Mogman said the review considered current and former gender identity development services patients, while his figures were directed to the larger group of those on the waiting list. The DHSC has insisted that patients on waiting lists were included in the review as well. A DHSC spokesperson said decisions on children's healthcare must follow the evidence at all times. Dr. Cass's review found there was insufficient evidence to show puberty blockers were safe for under 18s, which is why the NHS has already stopped their routine prescription for children with gender dysphoria, and so they damn well should. We are committed to ensuring children questioning their gender receive the best possible multidisciplinary care led by expert clinical guidance. That is why we are reforming gender identity services, which is the way I believe it should be. It is vital that the public discussion around this issue is handled sensitively and responsibly, and not one that is found in this ideology that is going to push the likes of young kids to go on these irreversible drugs and destroy their actual life. It's chemical castration is what it is. Castrating the next generation of young kids. How about that, people? And now the evidence is coming out. Hopefully Australia follows suits, and hopefully they listen, man, because a lot of these doctors, number one, they don't even know what the hell a woman is. That's another issue entirely. But secondly, they want young kids to go on these drugs. They want them to cut off their breasts, their healthy breast tissue, and do all these crazy things. Why in the world is chopping something off going to actually affirm your so-called gender identity? It doesn't make any sense at all. But anyway, I think this is a win. We'll see what happens in the not too distant future. But you guys take care. You be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.